every game Sweet Baby Ink touches turns to trash, and a new indie game called Burrow came out. It's doing terribly on Steam. These developers previously had silenced people on their forums and permanently banned people for criticizing this partnership, and it looks like that didn't really lead to any more sales for them. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I really don't understand what they were expecting to happen when they started banning potential customers. Maybe they thought that the woke crowd would love this from them and support this move, and maybe those types of people would show up to buy their product, but at the end of the day, all they really were doing was silencing people who might have purchased. And I know I personally was interested in this game, but when they started banning people for questioning their Sweet Baby Ink partnership, yeah, that's when I decided, you know what, I really don't have any interest in monetarily supporting them. I suppose if you really wanted to play it, you could via Xbox Game Pass, but this was just a terrible situation all around. It sucks that a game that looked very cozy and cute ended up being so tarnished because the developers decided, you know what, we need to, I don't know, fight the chuds that are simply questioning this partnership. It would have been way smarter for them to just give us answers instead of silencing people, because the Streisand effect has now occurred, and Burrow is not selling that well. It did go on to Game Pass day one, so they probably got quite a few downloads that way, and it is on other platforms, so maybe they did make some money from it, but ultimately the all-time peak on Steam was 1,297. Any game Sweet Baby Ink touches turns to trash, and one day developers are going to learn that. One day they're going to decide, you know what, we don't want to be partnered with an extremely controversial company, because this is the result, having minimal sales. And yeah, I don't think anybody expected this game to sell 100,000 copies on day one and get 50,000 players all-time peak, but at the same time, they probably could have done better if they didn't do this, because I know I would have streamed it, I know I would have given it some attention, I know I probably would have talked positively about it if it was a good game, because it looked cozy, it looked cute, but that didn't happen, and well, they probably lost out on sales from real gamers, because when you constantly try to fight against the evil gamers and you sit and you silence people, you're just losing out on real dollars, because the people that want you to be an activist and want you to make a statement don't actually buy video games. They don't actually play video games. So really, you're just making a product that's going to appeal to nobody. And this was a major issue, in my opinion. They were banning gamers for, asking questions, for wondering why they made this decision. There were threads like Sweet Baby Ink involved why, Sweet Baby Ink slop, why a cooperation with Sweet Baby Ink, don't buy this game when it comes out. And it says you've been permanently banned from the forums. Master of the TDS asked a couple of very good questions, like why the mass bans and deleted discussions. People are asking fair questions about your work with Sweet Baby Ink, and instead of giving a simple acknowledgement and clarifying what that involvement was, you're shutting down every attempt at dialogue. Yeah, they could have just simply said, we partnered with them like 3 years ago, they didn't have a big effect on the game, they didn't add a lot to this, but we still worked with them. They could have maybe given us one or two examples of work SBI did, but they didn't. I was one of the first who brought attention to this connection, and now you're treating the very people who care enough to ask as if they are the problem. Honesty and transparency are not weaknesses. They are the only way to rebuild trust. If you had chosen to engage in an open conversation instead of reflexively banning anyone who mentions it, you would have earned respect and likely won back some of the goodwill you're now burning. Your game looked exactly like the kind of experience I would have supported and enjoyed, but the lack of accountability and the decision to silence discussion, or rather than facing it head on, makes it impossible to overlook what is happening. You have the chance to turn this around, but that requires doing the right thing and actually speaking with the community instead of trying to erase the conversation, and even that post was removed. And it's always sad to see this happening. Yeah, sure, maybe they don't want our money, and that's fine. They don't need our money, apparently, but A game that had a lot of potential was just totally and completely killed off by this sort of reaction. And they did update their code of conduct, which nobody was breaking in their posts, because the main thing I think they decided to remove for was advertising, bullying, or trolling, but keeping the dialogue on topic. We love to talk about games in Winter Burrow in particular. Let's keep it close to those topics, and Sweet Baby Inc. is a close topic because they literally worked on this game. They had said, mind your language, keep off explicit content and offensive topics, it's a place for all ages, keep a respectful tone in trying to foster dialogue instead of conflict. What TDS had posted wasn't rude, wasn't trolling, wasn't attacking developers. It was just asking questions. No personal insults at community members, developers, public organizations, public figures, or anyone. No unfounded accusations. And if we see someone violating these rules, action will be taken. And it's like with most large companies like the Microsofts and the Sonys and Nintendos, if they see you doing something on their platform they don't like, or they know that you're making statements in their games they don't like, their moderators will remove you, and their terms of service allow those moderators to remove basically anything. And it was confirmed Sweet Baby Inc. had worked on this title by Amy Leigh Shaw. A game I worked on is releasing, and I couldn't be more excited. You wouldn't believe how kind and funny and charming the team behind this project is. That is until you play their gorgeous, mousy game. And Cameron Wild had also basically leaked this by their bio, which says Cameron Wild is a writer whose journey through storytelling has taken them from documentary films to games and beyond, with contributions to titles like Unusual June, God of War Ragnarok, South of Midnight, and Winter Burrow. They hope to keep resonant stories find their place in the world. Their favorite things include all black clothing, crafting, and their Sipu with the soul of a human man. I don't know why you would need a consultation team on a cute little mousy game. That's pretty freaking crazy to me. And I have not played this experience myself, but from what I understand, there is a lot of pronoun play in this game. And what I mean is that most characters are referred to as they/thems. Now, maybe that's because it's like creatures in the wilderness, but at the same time, you would think that characters that are supposed to be aunties are female, and then maybe others are males. It just seems really bizarre to me. Either way, though, just knowing SBI is affiliated with the title is enough to turn people off from this experience. And while I was initially looking forward to it, and I still would have played it with Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement, it does suck to know that the developers acted really so rude and so hateful. And, well, it doesn't look like the modern audience showed up to support them, because the modern audience doesn't really exist, or the people who could fit into that group are really just sensitive snowflakes on social media. They don't buy games, they don't play games, and really when you try to pander to them, you're pandering to no one. So I'm curious to see if the developers will end up making any sort of statement. I highly doubt it, since their game did come out a couple of days ago and they've been really silent on the controversy since. But either way, another Sweet Baby Inc. game has released. It hasn't done as good as you would think they would do, and, well, these developers really didn't help themselves. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.